Welcome back to the Us vs. Them channel. I'm your host, Vince, and we're going to break down the next fight we have for the upcoming UFC Rio card. We got Rocha versus Stewart Nicoll. This is pretty close to a pick'em fight, so there's really good opportunities here. But Rocha sitting at a minus 122 underdog, and Nicoll is a plus 100 favorite. Before we get into the breakdown, if I can remind you guys to, if you're not subscribed here, hit the subscribe button. We're 2 subscribers away from getting to 50, and I know that's not like that big of a deal, but to us it is. It's our first milestone. So if you're not subscribed here, please hit that subscribe button and watch the channel rise. This is a classic striker versus grappler matchup, to be honest with you. When you look at Rocha's striking, I mean, he is a pretty good boxer. He's really fast with his hands, which is pretty common for the flyweight division. All these dudes are fast as fuck, but he showed in the past when he fought Carpenter, for instance. Carpenter's a Golden Gloves boxer. We already broke him down earlier this fight card. But when they're on their feet, Rocha was handling his own for the most part and landed some good shots. He's got nice straight shots down the middle. And he also has really good knees, too, when he's expanding outside of his boxing skills. That's how he earned his UFC contract. He blasted, what's his name? Bittencourt, or whatever. Just smoked him in the early in the second round, the big knee, and got a KO. Also in the Clayton Carpenter fight, going back to that one real fast, he did hit him with a big knee up the middle and early in round 2. So you got to be watching out for those sneaky knees for sure with this dude. And then when you look at his record, honestly, like he's 10-1 when it comes to knockouts on his record. So he's got 17 professional wins right now, 10 of which come by way of knockout. Is it 17? Yeah, 17 wins, 10 wins by knockout. So this dude is obviously a striker. He's looking to put these lights out, and that's just what he does. When you look at the other side, though, you look at Nicoll's striking, you can see that Rocha's probably going to carry an advantage here. Nicoll's striking isn't terrible by any means. I don't want to shit on the guy or anything. But, obviously this is where he has a hole. When I was watching, so he's only 1-0, or own 1 in the UFC. Both these guys own 1 in the UFC. So not a whole lot of footage of them, fighting tough guys. But I was watching a couple regional scene fights for Nicoll, and it was against a guy named Dan Moodley. Like I said, regional scene fight. You can tell Moodley is probably a striker by trade, and he was out-striking Nicoll in their fight up until it led to the takedown, which was pretty much inevitable for Stewart Nicoll. There was only about a minute into the fight before the takedown happened, but, Nicoll tried his hand at striking and kind of realized he was probably outgunned and said, fuck it, we're taking this fight to the ground or against the cage where I feel a lot more comfortable. So Nicoll, like I said, gonna have he's gonna be a little bit of a striking disadvantage here. And if he's able to start climbing the ranks and winning this fight and winning more fights, he's gonna have a hard time probably fighting the top echelon of this division because of the striking game. Like I said, Nicoll probably does his best work when he's in the grappling. He's creating grappling exchanges. He initiates that a lot of times by pushing guys against the cage, pushing their back against the cage. And he has really good pressure against the cage. But what he does really nicely is he mixes in either going for leg attacks or landing strikes, landing punches to the head or knees up the middle. He does a really, really good job of staying busy when he's doing that. A lot of people, we've seen since the Khabib era, start to work guys against the cage and use that to their advantage. And that is definitely something you have to do in MMA, don't get me wrong. But where the fucking fans hate it is when they don't do shit with it. You see him push a guy against the cage, and once every 20 seconds, 15 seconds, they land a fucking pitter-patter shot that means nothing, and, the ref keeps letting them stay there. We fucking hate that shit, And that's something I appreciate in Nicoll, is that he's not really looking to do that. And I don't want to blame it on Khabib. Khabib actually did he did really good work on the cage. But Nicoll also does pretty good work on the cage, too. So when you're fighting Nicoll, the worst thing you want to do is put your back against the cage and let him engage in a grappling exchange, because that's where he's going to start the sequence that we've seen him finish fights time and time again. We did see Nicoll get kind of like caught in a scramble in the Jesus Aguilar fight. I don't know if you guys remember that one, but I thought Nicoll was doing a pretty good job during that fight. But you could definitely tell. I mean, it was his UFC debut, and maybe the UFC jitters were probably getting the best of him, and he was maybe a little bit too jittery and rushing positions a little too much. For instance, before the submission happened, he was on top. He tried to take the back, and he just really jumped it. And Aguilar was really wise to put his hips in the air, kind of bucked him off, and created another scramble. What's his name? Nicoll was on his way to winning that scramble, honestly. but he got, he kind of trying to force the shot, and that's where he kind of left his head over there for Gilly. And Jesus Aguilar is a, really, really high level with the guillotine submission. I think he's got 7 or 8 on his record right now. So he just put himself in a position where his opponent was the best, honestly, and he wasn't as obviously seasoned in that area. So to me, when I was watching that fight, I didn't really read too far into it. First off, Jesus Aguilar is pretty solid, and second, I think he just got a little ahead of himself, and I really don't see him making the same mistake again. When you look on the other side, you look at Rocha's grappling. That's where his hole is for sure, and that hole was exposed in the Clayton Carpenter fight when they fought. Carpenter was able to secure takedowns pretty much every time he tried. He only needed 2 takedowns to win the fight. He got a takedown the first round, stayed on top for like 3.5 minutes, got a takedown the second round, and 90 seconds later, the fight was over. So, obviously that's somewhere where Rocha struggles, and that's a little bit concerning for me, We've also seen him struggle on the regional scene. Mateus Severino, that was his only LFA fight. He struggled there too with the takedowns, defending takedowns, and when he does get taken down, struggling to work back to his feet. And, the MMA, pro MMA, especially once you get to the higher levels, the LFAs, the Cage Warriors, especially when you get to the UFCs, you really, really can't have that as a whole anymore. And especially in the flyweight division, like I said, where most of these guys are really fucking well-rounded. Breaking down flyweight tape sometimes and trying to find where people can exploit holes is really difficult. Sometimes it's just like almost flipping a coin and just be like, well, landing on heads, I'm going with that fucking guy. So the fact that we're able to see a hole in his game, we've seen it exploited already, and to be honest with you, I think we're going to see it get exploited again. For my official prediction, I will admit to you guys, this one is a little bit tricky to pick just because there is such limited footage of these guys fighting high-level dudes. In fact, there's not a lot of footage of Rocha fighting at all. Sometimes those Brazilians keep things pretty tight-lipped, and they don't show a lot of tape out there. They don't put that shit on YouTube. And he's only got 1 fight on Fight Pass. So I really had to do some digging to see how he is as a fighter. So it makes it really hard for me to make do film study and make predictions. But I will say this, that I'm leaning towards Nicoll to get this one done. And I can tell you guys why. I did see in the past in Tapology that Rocha has fought as low as 115 pounds before. So even for the flyweight division, he might be a little bit undersized. This dude's only 5'3", and I'm not a fucking giant myself, so I'm not judging the guy, but I'm just saying, he's just probably a little bit too small for the division, and there is no other divisions after this. So this is the kind of the end of the road, When he fought Carpenter, he showed good heart in that fight, but Carpenter was so outsized on him, there was just not a whole lot he can do. And that's why part of me is just thinking, like, can he not get off bottom, or is he just too small for the division? And I think there's definitely a component to each. But the unfortunate part is you can't make the guy grow any taller. That's just, he is who he is. And he doesn't really look any thicker than he has before. He looks about the same size. So I think Nicoll's going to have a size advantage, and that's really going to help. If you have a size advantage, when it comes to the grappling, that's really, really going to help. Try grappling somebody 30, 40, 50 pounds bigger than you, and then grab somebody 30, 40, 50 pounds smaller than you, and you're going to feel the difference in him. Obviously he's not going to have that much of a size advantage, but 10 or 12 pounds goes a long way in the grappling. So, and scrambles where he might, or in takedowns especially, where he might not have gotten takedowns against other people in the division, he's probably going to find those takedowns against Rocha. But guys, I'll be honest with you. There is a lot of value in a lot of these props for this guy. Stewart Nicoll by decision, that's plus 310. There's really solid value in that. The submission prop is at a plus 420. I love that prop. And then the KO prop is at plus 750. Stewart Nicoll does knock dudes out with ground and pound. So it's not the traditional, like, concussive, knock somebody out, they go to sleep, NyQuil, that's it. Might not be like that. But a ground and pound KO still counts the same way as a big, devastating overhand right. So that 750 prop, there's something to look into that. Which leads me to my prediction. I am going to go with Stewart Nicoll by KO. This dude is really, really good at getting guys on the ground and just punching them. He's not going to force submissions. He's not going to fuck around, try to get under your throat. I see him do it twice already on the regional scene against his highest level opponents in the regional scene, where he says, fuck it, I'm going to flatten you out, put the boots in, and just land bombs. And eventually the ref has to stop the fight. So for my official prediction, we're going to go Stewart Nicoll on this one by KO. But also, another good prop, if you are feeling Rocha, I do think that there's one way for him to win, and that's by decision. I don't think he's going to get the knockout. Stewart Nicoll seems like he's really, really durable, and there's pretty much no chance he's getting a submission either. So that prop is sitting at plus 500. That's also really sick. So stay tuned for our video tomorrow when we give you the parlays. I know this fight is going to make it into at least one parlay, and probably two. All right, you wild motherfuckers, that's all I got for you guys today. Stop by for our next video where we break down Walter Walker versus Muhammad Usman. That fight is going to be pretty sick, but I also think I got a pretty slam dunk good pick on that one. So stop by for that. It's going to be something worth sprinkling into a parlay. But that's all I got for you guys. I'm the fuck out of here. Here's my forehead again.